Hi, Ram55 here, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to session number 18 on my Tidewater Railroad by Jointed Rail. This is going to be part 2 of the local run. We're going to be watching Andrew continue his delivery of cars along the Tidewater route. In session 1, we saw him make deliveries to the first 3 industries, which would be the Woodhaven Fuel Terminal, Tidewater Mills, and the last one, which he is now pulling away from, Frank's Co-op. He has one more stop to make, and that's going to be up at the Monroe AG and Energy Plant. And he's got a couple of tanker cars he needs to deliver up there. Now again, I'm going to let the videos do most of the talking. I'll be interjecting some stuff as we go along, but for the most part, we're just going to be watching him do his thing. Now, just to give a little bit of a setting here, that siding that he is going by right now off to the right is the lead onto the grain mill for Frank's Co-op. And he's actually backing the full hoppers that he's just picked up from this area back up to the main track, where he's going to drop them off at the siding and then pick up a couple of tanker cars and head north. Now, one thing you'll notice right now is that the engine sounds like it's straining. Well, it is. We're going downhill right now, and I'm actually using the dynamic brake to keep the train under control. If I had just kept this in neutral, we would accelerate as we headed down the hill, and the more speed we get, the harder it is to stop and control. And even using the dynamic brake right now, we're already up to 10 miles an hour. If I used the locomotive brake, it really was quite ineffective. So I didn't want to use the train brake, which applies the brakes to all the cars in the train, as that depletes the air supply, and then eventually you run out of brakes. So I'm using the dynamic brake, and it's the first time I've actually used it using this game, and it worked pretty well. Ironically, with the dynamic brakes, the more power you give the locomotive, the slower it goes. It's using the electrical current to generate resistance to slow the train down. Now here, Andrew is entering the siding to the left of the main line, and this really comes in handy. You don't want to really drag these heavy grain hoppers all the way up north to deliver 2 cars to the Monroe AG and Energy Plant. So we're going to leave them here and just take the 2 cars with us, and then we'll come back and get these later. hope everybody's doing well. We had an absolutely glorious day here in Michigan. It was in the high 30s this morning, a little bit on the chilly side, but it's up in the 70s now here in the late afternoon. Just a beautiful sunny day. I hope you guys are all doing well and able to enjoy the outdoors. Again, I appreciate all the comments people have made about these videos. Please keep them coming. I'm always eager to engage in conversation with you guys to talk about how you use Trainz, how you use the Tidewater Railroad. So yeah, please leave some comments. So here Andrew is arriving at the turnout that will take him to the Monroe plant. It's pretty easy to maneuver when you only have two cars dragging behind you. The Woodhaven plant primarily takes tank cars to pick up the ethanol fuel that they produce here, but they also will occasionally take a boxcar of loading and unloading some supplies, but also a couple grain cars, or hopper cars I should say, to pick up the leftover chaff from the process of making the ethanol. And that chaff will be taken to another plant somewhere to be turned into making feed for cattle. One thing I noticed looking at these videos, this turnout here is actually quite sharp. It's not that big of a deal because this is an industrial location and they can use some pretty tight radiuses. But as you can see, there's a fairly long lead, and I may readjust that just to make that turnout a little bit less sharp and perhaps a little bit more prototypical. Now, Andrew will be running light back toward Tidewater. That is, he doesn't have any cars with him, he's just bringing the engines back. But if this was, say, session number 2 or day number 2, this is still day number 1, remember? If this was day number 2, he'd probably have some full cars to take back with him. As it is right now, he's done with his deliveries. Now he'll just proceed south and pick up those hoppers that he left down by the Tidewater mills. Now this route passes over the Rifle River several times as it snakes its way from the north down to the south where it dumps into the St. Clair River. Another thing that I'll need to work on, you'll notice that the signals are all red as we head south. They gave me the proper signal heading north, but they're all red heading south. And all the switches are set correctly and there's no other trains on the main line, so that's something I'm going to have to look into. So here's Andrew arriving at the southern end of that siding. He'll back up and hook on to those loaded hoppers and then take them to the Tidewater yard. Well, they'll be picked up, I think, by the CSX Railroad and taken east. Once he's done that, Andrew will be done for the day, so he'll uncouple his locomotives, take them back to the barn, and he'll be on his way home. Another thing I noticed when I made this video, as the time in the upper right hand corner did not change from start to finish. So I have to look into that. It usually should be ticking away at real time. This local train took about an hour and a half from start to finish, from leaving the Tidewater yard to making all the deliveries, picking up these grain hoppers and coming back to Tidewater. And I broke it up into 2 sessions, and I also cut out most of the in-between stuff, so I concentrated mostly on the switching duties at the industries. You can also see those railroad crossing illuminated late, and the crossing gate came down late as well. Something else I'll have to look into. If any of you guys have ideas on how to fix these problems and have encountered these before, let me know. I appreciate the help. So Andrew's pulling in on the arrival track, and he'll cut his cars loose here. And in a little while, Donald will pick them up and put them on the correct track for the CSX eastbound train to pick them up later. So Andrew's going to be pulling his locomotives into the engine shed over there in the distance, and he's going to call it a day. And we're calling it a day on this video as well. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please give me a thumbs up. Tell me what you like about the videos, things that you'd like to see different. Give me some comments about how you operate the Tidewater Railroad or Trainz in general. Always interested in, like I said, striking up conversations with you guys. And we will see you soon on the next video. You guys have a good evening.